Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Directed IRA podcast. My name is Mark Kohler, here with the illustrious Matt Sorensen. So excited about today's topic because this is a reveal. I don't know what that's kind of the new word. You're like, what's the reveal? This is a big reveal.
Yeah, you didn't think this was much of a magic show, but this is a magic show on retirement accounts. And we want to let everyone know that Roth IRAs are cool and everyone can have one.
No matter what income level.
Yeah, I don't care. You're like, but Matt, I contribute to my 401k at work already. So,
doesn't matter.
But Matt, I make $300,000 a year. I thought I make too much money. So
Doesn't matter.
The front door was shut for you guys to get into the Roth IRA party, but we have a ticket to the back door.
Yes, and
You can still get into the Roth IRA party.
Yeah, you all deserve to be at the party. It's not just for the
want you
cool
there.
kids.
Yeah.
I mean, even Michael Anthony Hall could get into the party, and that's okay. Now, quote Matt, what movie? Come on.
16 Candles?
16 Candles. Yes. I'm so impressed with you.
Yeah.
So, Jake.
John
Jake.
Hughes.
Yeah.
Is that a John Hughes film?
Yeah, it's John Hughes. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
John Hughes, the magic of the 80s with John Hughes.
Yeah.
Oh, so
He did
good.
Ferris Bueller, right? Was he Ferris Bueller?
Yeah, I don't
think that wasn't John
Oh my
Hughes.
gosh, now you
Anyways.
throw me off. I mean, he did Pretty in Pink, Breakfast Club, Say Anything, all those goodies. But I mean, and 16
Okay.
Candles, a classic. But anyway, so all of you that would like to play at the Roth party, we're going to show you how to get in the door. This is not that complicated of a topic. It's going to shock you. I have clients on a regular basis, high net worth clients that have apparently or supposedly very expensive accountants and lawyers that are supposed to be advising them, missed the boat. And they're ticked when they find out.
Yeah. Yep.
Oof.
All right, let's talk about why the Roth IRA is cool and why you want it in the first place, because many of you may not know.
Okay, well, how cool is the Roth IRA? Ooh, we should do a whole show on that. Okay, why don't you just take
should.
a couple sentences? How cool is the Roth IRA?
Oh, it's easy.
Corey, will you write that down? We should do that. How cool is the Roth IRA?
Okay. All right. Okay, good little side note there. Okay, here's why you guys want the Roth IRA and why it's cool. Here's the short Reader's Digest version. 2 words. Tax-free. Everything that comes out of this thing, you can grow it. You can make as much money as you want. You can have a $5 billion Roth IRA like Peter Thiel, and everything comes out at retirement, 59 and a half. Remember, we're building these retirement accounts for the long haul to live off of and in our golden years, so to speak. But everything comes out tax-free. When you build up your traditional IRA, your traditional 401k, you're getting tax deferral. When you pull the money out at retirement, you get taxed on the money you pull out at whatever income bracket you are at that spot. The Roth IRA, doesn't matter. Comes out totally tax-free. So that's why we love the Roth IRA. That's why a lot of people want it. But the hurdle is there is an income restriction that makes you have to go to the back door.
Misinformation. Sorry, I'm trying to just... Yeah. I think the hurdle is, and I mean that, I know I'm talking over the top of you here, because I think it's a big deal, is it really is misinformation. There is no hurdle. People think there's a hurdle because of this.
It's a hurdle. It's not a wall. It's a hurdle. You do have to do something to get over it. You can't just walk through it like everyone else. You've got to do a little hop.
Maneuver.
You got to do something to get around this thing.
Yeah. You got to go in, if you're trying to sneak into the party.
I thought the hurdle was the perfect metaphor.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
okay. I was going to say the side yard door. You've got to be able to reach over, pull the little wire, get into the back door. That's true. You got to do something. But I really do think a lot of it's misinformation, because so many people don't realize they can play in the party. They don't know that a Roth IRA works. And I'm going to say this one other way, then we're going to just talk about how to do it. It's really a to the point podcast. If you've already seen the playtime on this, is not that long, because it's not that hard. It's just getting the right information out there. Here's my point. Grows tax-free, comes out tax-free. And what's so cool about it is you can have a Roth IRA even if you have a 401k at work. You can have a Roth IRA at any age. You can have a Roth IRA at any income. And some of you go, you're liars. That happens a lot. People are like, hold, those 5 statements you just made, wrong. You can't do that. No, you can.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Mark, I'm in publication 590 from the IRS. It says I can't contribute to a Roth IRA if I have income in excess of 125,000 single, 198,000 married.
that's
What do
the
you
front
say to
door.
that?
Well, that's the front door.
True. Exactly.
True, but the back door is going to get us in there. Okay, so everybody, we'll have a new podcast on how cool the Roth is. We have podcasts on the mega backdoor Roth, the mega Roth, the mega this, the mega that, because a lot of people don't realize that you can even put more money into a Roth than just the obligatory $6,000 or $7,000. I mean, you can really throw down some money in a Roth, and people didn't know that.
If you're self-employed and have a business, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about the after-tax deduction inside a 401k at your company, maybe.
Where you work, that's
Yeah,
true.
where you
Good
work.
point, yeah.
So there are some nuances. And people, that's our job as tax lawyers. This is why I love what I do. Our job is to find a loophole for you. Now, I know that rubs the grain of some people wrong, going, freaking dirty, rotten tax lawyer. Call me. I'll help you.
Yeah.
It's not like just help Democrats or just help Republicans or only help wealthy people. In fact, we have built our whole brand on Main Street. We love the smaller business owner. So call us. Yeah. Okay, so Matt, the author of, I'm going to hold it up for the camera, the author of the Self-Directed IRA Handbook. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. Look at that. Oh,
That's a beaut.
second edition, the best-selling book, the most authoritative, the most thick. I mean, this has got some meat to it.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That was not okay. Anyway, so what we're going to do is just let Matt go ahead and explain how to get into the Roth IRA. Notice how I sidestepped that, Matt.
Yeah. Thank you.
No inside voice. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, just tiptoe around that one. All right. There are 3 steps.
Oh, 3?
It's as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Ooh, that sounds cool. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Okay.
All right. Step 1. You're going to open a traditional IRA and make a non-deductible contribution.
Hold on. But I have a plan at work.
I don't care.
Hold it.
You're making a non-deductible contribution.
But why would I do that, Matt? That's dumb. Why would I do a non-deductible contribution?
Because we're going to get to step 3 and we're going to convert it.
We're going to come to the promised land in step 3?
That's right. We're only making a temporary non-deductible contribution. Now, a lot of people say, hey, Matt, I called up Directed IRA. That's our company. By the way, we have a Backdoor Roth IRA all-inclusive app that does this for you in one app. Okay. I used to do this before we had Directed IRA at other places, and it drove me bonkers because it took me 2 or 3 years to track down all the forms to actually execute this thing. All right. So step 1, you open up a traditional IRA, you make a non-deductible contribution. Now, the non-deductible part of it is just for your taxes. When you make the contribution to the traditional, it's just a traditional IRA contribution. Whether you're at Fidelity or at Directed IRA or anywhere else, they're not booking it one way or the other. Okay, this is your responsibility on your tax return to say it's non-deductible. All right, let me just make that first one.
Okay. Now, may I on step 1? People, you can open that account anywhere. You say, well, you guys are all about self-directed. Sure, you can open a self-directed, traditional, non-deductible. You could go to Ameritrade, you can go to Acorns, you can go to directedira.com, you can go, it doesn't matter. Just open the freaking account, put the money in, and your accountant or someone may go, you don't even get a deduction, you make too much money, or you have a day job, or your spouse has a day job. Don't overthink it.
We don't care for the deduction. It's okay.
We don't care.
All these rules of like income and do you contribute to a 401k or does your spouse have one at work? That's all about deductibility.
Yeah. This is why it's called, this is why we call it a loophole.
Exactly. All right. You got to know how to thread the needle here. So this is what you do. Now you can put up to $6,000 a year in, $7,000 if you're 50 or older. Now, step 2, you're going to open a Roth IRA. All right. This is a separate account. You can't contribute directly into the Roth. You can't just open a Roth IRA and put $6,000 in if you make too much money or you have a 401k at your day job or you're even in your small business. Okay.
Now, that's a good point, Matt, that you bring this up, because I don't know if I have the, off the top of my head, if I go to open a Roth IRA on an app or maybe with a broker dealer or a bank, they're going to ask, what is your initial deposit? And I think what you need to be aware of that you're going to say 0. Do not put an initial deposit in. And so that's why we like the directed IRA one-step application, because we already know that. We're not going to bug you for a deposit in the Roth. But if someone asks you for a deposit in the Roth IRA, well, I'll just put in $100. Actually, that's not good. If you're not allowed to put money in a Roth, don't do it. But open the account and just say, I'm going to make a contribution later. Pay the account setup fee, wherever the freak it's at. Is that okay, Matt?
Yeah, or what I would tell them, because I used to do this before I was over, we had directed IRA. I still do it, of course, here now. Just tell them you're going to be converting. To say I'm converting some of my traditional dollars that are already there from my traditional IRA to the Roth IRA. So hold tight. I'm going to convert.
Okay.
And
So
most
2.
places understand that and know what that means. You don't have to go in that it's backdoor. If you have a good financial advisor or you're a high net worth individual at a bank or financial institution, you can get the savvy people who know what the heck it is. If you're calling 1-800-FIDELITY or walking into the person that just greets you at the bank, they ain't gonna know what the heck this is. All right, they're gonna screw it up. I guarantee it. Follow the steps here that we're talking about.
Just one last metaphor here or example, well, there'll probably be more, is that I like to call these buckets of investing, buckets for your portfolio. In our little diagrams we create for clients, we refer to these as buckets. So you can't pour water into a Roth IRA until you have created the bucket to receive it. So you open the traditional, you put your non-deductible water in it, and you're like, now I want to put it in a Roth. You can't put it in a Roth unless you have the bucket ready to go. So that's kind of this step 2.
Yeah. All right. So now you open up that Roth account. Now you've got a Roth account and there's nothing in it, and you've got a traditional IRA with $6,000 in it. Now it's a non-deductible $6,000. You don't take a tax deduction for this. You're not going to. Now step 3 is the Roth conversion. You are going to convert that $6,000 in the traditional IRA over to Roth, and now it's going to end up in your Roth account. Now, I didn't take a deduction on that $6,000 because it was a non-deductible contribution. Because of that, there's no tax on the conversion.
Hold it. Can you repeat that? No tax.
No tax. This is, again, no tax.
Yeah. See, now, for those geeks out there, man, those are romantic words. I mean, some of you are like a little hot and bothered. You're like, whoa, no tax?
Yeah,
Man,
I promise to only say that one more time during the podcast episode. I don't want to make you go crazy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if you're trying to schmooze that special someone, you might want to whisper in his or her ear, no tax. Ooh, boy, and they just melt in your arms. If you have a copy of my book, Tax and Legal Playbook, start reading out of that. There'll be butter in your hands. Now, okay.
Follow the show for tax advice, not for relationship advice.
Well, I tried to meld the two worlds for people. But,
I know.
Okay, now, here's a couple caveats. All right. You're in the game. You're in the party. In that simplistic example we just gave, you might take a month to do the process and take the steps. You don't want to try to do it all in 2 days, because if you don't do it with a company that knows what you're doing, they might collapse the whole thing and screw it up for you. So you've got to be very engaged in the process. Make sure where you're doing this, they know what you're doing and why. But here's the caveat. If you already have traditional IRA money, you got to convert that first. And that's going to be money that you're going to have to pay tax on to convert, because you probably did get a deduction for it. Now, if you didn't in the past, great. But if you do have a traditional sitting there, before you can do a backdoor for 2021 or 2022, whenever you're listening to this, you got to convert the old stuff, which brings into us the story of Goonies, Steven Spielberg, Oregon Coast, 1982, because there's a character in that called Chunk.
Yeah, I love Chunk. And the Truffle Shuffle.
The Truffle Shuffle. Oh, Truffle Shuffle. Powerful. So
Come on, you got to do the truffle shuffle. I don't want to. You have to do it.
What's an ORV? That's an off-road vehicle. That's one of the first movies.
ORV.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big deal. Everybody wanted a Jeep Cherokee after that. I mean, that was a big deal.
That was a good looking get up. I like that. That black Jeep Cherokee.
Okay, now why do we bring up chunky and chunking or chunk? Is because if you have a traditional IRA, start chunking it in pieces to a Roth. I was just on a phone call earlier this week with a client in her 70s, and I said, you need a Roth. And she goes, well, I'm too old. No, you're not. In fact, your kids would love to inherit that Roth. And you're maybe in the lowest tax bracket you've ever been in your life, living on Social Security and some retirement income. Let's chunk at that, convert it to Roth, and never, ever, ever pay tax again.
That was a little Taylor Swift.
Ever, ever.
Never, ever.
Ooh.
Back together.
Thank you. Man, I appreciate that. This is a little
That's a little T Swift, you know. Little T Swift.
It is.
All right.
It's hard.
Now that can be a little roadblock. I don't know what to say here. You need to convert.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those of you that have traditional IRAs already, you will need to convert. Now, what if you have a traditional 401k though? That doesn't count. You can leave that separate.
Yep.
Don't worry about it. You can keep that.
Yeah.
But traditional IRAs, which would include a SEP IRA, because those are IRA based in traditional dollars, must be converted first before you're doing the backdoor strategy.
Yeah. Now, some of you, just a side note, that may have been a lot of hurdles to go from Goonies to Taylor Swift all in the same analogy. Mm-hmm. But I'm just going to say, Corey here in the studio is like, I would never want to be in your guys' brains. This is not healthy. You know, this is was that pretty much your comment under your breath?
I said it must be hard to be your guys' kids.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. It must be hard to be our kids. That's what he said. Well,
yeah.
It's too bad.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. We got to bring it together. We're trying to be multi-generational.
I want to hit everybody, you know?
Yeah.
The Goonies fans, the T Swift fans.
Frank Sinatra to Taylor Swift to Dumb and Dumber.
The 16 Candles fans. I mean,
we cover a lot of ground.
We want to relate to everybody.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this is tax, legal, retirement accounts.
Yeah.
It can be boring. Okay. It needs a little Goonies and T Swift.
Now, all kidding aside, people, if you're saying, Mark, get to the freaking point. And some people listen to the show and then say that and then ultimately quit listening because they don't think I get to the point fast enough. But you know what, people? It's the journey. You know, it's not the destination. Okay.
All right. Mark's making you earn this. You gotta earn.
You gotta earn the payoff.
You gotta suffer through these dumb examples and analogies and pop culture references from the 80s.
Yeah, he sounds like someone in a relationship with me. You're gonna make me earn this, aren't you? Okay. Here's the deal. People, here's the goal. You want to finish the game with as much money in your Roth IRA as you can. That's it. I don't care if you're 7 years old or 70 years old. Seriously, we want to set up Roth IRAs for clients' kids that are 7 years old helping in the business. And grandma that's 70 years old, I want to chunk her money into a Roth. It helps everybody. Hurts no one. It helps. I screwed it up. I blew it. I had it going. Can you do that one for me?
It's good for the economy. Helps everyone. Hurts no one.
Well, hold it. But can't you whisper it? I mean, that makes it a little more appropriate.
It's good for the economy. Helps everyone. Hurts nobody. The Backdoor Roth IRA. There you go.
So that's it.
Helps everyone. Hurts no one.
Hurts no one. Yeah. And if you get upset that these tax lawyers are all about loopholes or Peter Thiel has X number of dollars in his Roth, why don't I? You're in the party. Come join the party.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to tell you. So, okay, in summary, that's it. It's just easy steps. Talk to your, if you put too much money into a Roth and you shouldn't have, we got a separate podcast on that. But really,
now you can do this every year. That's the thing with this is just do $6,000 a year. If you're 50 or older, you get to do $7,000 a year. But you can do the same thing every year. The tax form you're going to use is form 8606. This will go with your 1040. This is the form where you reference that you did a non-deductible contribution that you converted to Roth. This is a totally legit strategy, this backdoor Roth. And it's something we've got. If you go to directedira.com/backdoor Roth IRA, we have the all-inclusive app on it, some articles, some fancy little diagrams showing you how to pull it off, some videos of Mark, and we'll have this podcast episode up there as well.
Yeah. And I just want to point out that it was all Matt could do to keep any inappropriate innuendos off the show with this topic title.
I made a commitment that I would not reference the back door except with Roth IRA.
I'm glad you kept that commitment. I just want to note that because that would have been, you made it through the whole show. Not even at the last, did you say anything that would have implied that?
I didn't even let it slip.
Yeah, not even let it slip. I'm proud of you. Matt, you're just a man of integrity. That's
trying to be a gentleman and a scholar.
Is that a movie or is that Officer and a Gentleman?
You're a gentleman and a scholar, sir.
Gentleman, I didn't know. Two characteristics I'm shooting for.
You're a cowboy and a son of a bitch.
Is that from Yellowstone?
That sounds like it.
Yeah, I can see Kevin Costner. I can see that. Oh man, I'm waiting for next season. Ooh.
Yeah, coming out.
Ooh, it's gonna be good.
Love it.
Okay.
By the way, because I know Park City. We were talking about that. I got some details on Yellowstone. It was shot in Yellowstone, actually. Yellowstone is shot in Park City.
Parts of it are.
Parts there. Okay.
Yes, and I was in Park City, almost killing myself this last weekend. Do you want to hear my story about riding on a single track?
No, that's on the Main Street Business Podcast, our sister podcast. Mark gives a very in-depth example of riding his mountain bike and almost dying, and I don't need to go through that again. It's already been recorded once.
It was traumatic for me on the mountain and for you to hear the story afterwards. I don't know which one was worse, but it was not pretty in either instance. Yes. But that is a good note for all of you that haven't gotten over to our Main Street Business Podcast. It's a lot of fun, more general in nature regarding entrepreneurship and wealth building and saving taxes. Our last show or our upcoming show, whatever, is 9 mistakes when you set up an LLC to avoid. Is that what we're going to call it?
Yeah.
Still don't like the title.
9 mistakes to avoid when setting up your LLC. And we gave you some solutions on how to fix them too.
Yeah. So it's not all about shame game. We're not about shame. No.
That's not our game.
That's not our game. Okay, everybody. We'll see you next week. Keep living the dream.
Thanks, everyone.